Hey, everybody, welcome to Collect the Cash Playbook with my friend, my partner, my buddy, D. Bowden. D, it's all you, my friend.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Collect the Cash Playbook. Every unpaid invoice has a story. Do me a favor, please. Please put in the chat where you tuning in from. Love to know that, so I can go back after we're done talking and make sure that I connect with y'all and have a conversation. So listen, y'all showed up for a conversation about every unpaid invoice has a story. I know it's very different because you're like, D, every unpaid invoice has a story? Yes, every unpaid invoice has a story, and every unpaid invoice has a story because you need to go basically problem solve to figure out why. Do me a favor. How many of y'all in the chat have ever had an unpaid invoice? Let me know. And your first thought is, man, why hasn't my client paid me? And then you're sitting there kind of wrestling with they haven't paid me. I need this cash flow. I'm concerned about my money. Yeah, listen, in tonight's conversation, we're going to talk about why every unpaid invoice has a story and how you need to do two things. One, you got to be a really good problem solver, and you really got to be a really good detective. So listen, let's get into it. So again, like I said, every unpaid invoice has a story. And tonight I want to share with you why this happens. So how many of y'all have corporate contracts? Put it in the chat for me. How many of y'all have government contracts? Put that in the chat. Do you know that if your corporate contract is missing critical details, that can hold up your payment? And especially if you have a government contract, if you're missing the contract number or the task order number or any supporting documents to confirm that the work was done and the invoice is submitted properly, that can hold up your invoice getting paid. How about this? How about if you forgot to send the invoice? How about this? How about if you forgot to submit the invoice, period? You just forgot to bill them and forgot to send it in. That's one thing that can happen. Another thing that could absolutely happen is this. Y'all know that we live in a world where people leave jobs, emails change, account managers change. How about if you send it to you keep sending your invoice to your person that you've been in relationship with, and they've gone, they left, one way or the other, and unfortunately you don't know that your account got transferred to somebody else, and you don't know who the person is because, of course, once the person left, that account was transferred to somebody else, and of course they don't know that you are the customer that needs to get paid. So one of the things you need to be able to do really, really well is figure out, okay, why it's the story. Is it a contract number, task order number? If it's on the commercial side, a contract number on that side too. Invoice number, right person, right department. If you deal in portals, you have to submit it into the portal. There's a bunch of things you have to do. Like I said earlier at the beginning of the conversation, you have to do two things really, really well: problem solve and do customer service. You absolutely have to. I'm sorry, not customer service. You have to do investigating, because that's part of why your invoice hasn't gotten paid. So let's talk about why unpaid invoices can disrupt your growth. Listen, if you're a small business owner, the last thing you want to be worrying about is how come you haven't gotten paid. Other thing you want to do is this: if you are a small business owner listening to this now or in the replay, you got to figure out what happened. So invoices could be disrupted for a variety of reasons: payments, missing documents, missing information, funding issues. I mean, the list is varied. Oh, and also another thing that could happen that could disrupt your operations is that if you didn't prepare a proper invoice to begin with, that's one of the first things. I probably should have said that first, but one of the key takeaways from tonight is to make sure that you prepare a proper invoice and that you make sure you have your contract number, the supporting documents, and that it is submitted to the right person, right email, right department. That's really crucial. And so, operations, growth, cash flow. Your business, let me say it this way, collect the cash. The sale is not complete until the money is actually in the bank. So getting paid, getting the sale, getting the contract, doing the deliverable, submitting the invoice, collecting money, and also making sure you get paid. It's crucial. And what happens is that a lot of times you're like, D, I really don't want to have to go back and ask my client for the payment. I get it. But I say it this way: as confident as you were to ask for the money, you have to be just as confident to ask for the sale. I'll say it again. As confident as you were to ask for the sale, you have to be just as confident to ask for your payments. They go together. And your operations is part of your sales process. So it's a sale, it's contracts, it's order entry, it's order fulfillment, it's invoicing, it's payments, and it's notes, which is basically a tracking system. But it's basically also part of your operations. And you need to know basically the state of your accounts. And if anything is missing, if you've got payments that are due in 30 days, you need to know how many invoices are supposed to come in, in 30 days or in 60 days or in 90 days. Most people are like, D, I don't want to have to do that. I know, trust me, I feel you. I don't want to have to do it either. But listen, I don't want to not get paid, and I want to make sure y'all get paid, because here's the thing. I mean, in a few minutes, I'm gonna tell you my origin story and tell you like where all this comes from. But before I jump into that, I want to make sure I stay on point. We're talking to you about how the fact that unpaid invoices disrupt operations. So, for example, if you as a business owner, if you have support staff that you need to pay, if you don't get paid, you can't pay them. How about if you don't get paid, you can't pay yourself? How about the fact that you can't do marketing and ads and get support for other things? So tracking your payments and making sure you are following up to collect your cash is really important. And so it's one of those things. I know it's not necessarily comfortable, or you're thinking, man, I don't want to have to do this. But listen, you have your mindset has to change in terms of understanding that getting paid for your work matters. And the thing is, if you're afraid to go engage with your client, they're going to wonder, like, why are you scared to come back and ask you for the money, especially if you have a contract with them and you have a deliverable to fulfill. The slide says there needs to be a paradigm shift. And I say, as confident as you were to ask for the sale, you have to be just as confident to ask for the cash. A lot of people would say, like, well, D, why do I need to be confident? Well, let's dial it back for a second. Weren't you confident when you submitted the proposal for the work? Tell me in the chat. I'm sure you were. Weren't you confident when you asked the customer for the sale? I'm sure you were. Even if you were nervous, you showed up really good. And you're like, nah, I got this. I'm gonna close this sale because I believe that my solution, my services, my product, my whatever can solve this customer's need, and we can do this. So, as confident as you were to ask for that sale, you have to see it all the way through and make sure that you also ask for the money, because they go together. It's sales and it's AR, or I say it's sales and collect the cash. They go together, because without the sale being with thank you. Without the sale being collected, you don't have any revenue. You don't have any money to do the things that we're just talking about, which is pay yourself, pay your team, plan on expansion. For example, if you were gonna get a VA, if you were gonna get like have somebody support your website, all the things. Let me just make it clear. You have to have cash in the bank account, in your business bank account, to do all the things. Let me say it again. You have to have cash in your bank account to do all the things. And here's the thing. I get that invoice recovery can definitely cause anxiety. Listen, I say it this way. I understand how it gives you, but I jokingly say, like, the heebie-jeebies, because the first thing is that nobody wants to have to go back to ask a client to pay them, because you're thinking that I did the work, I submitted the invoice, I followed all the rules. They should just process my payment, and normally they would. But just think about it. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes mistakes happen. And if you don't take responsibility for following up for your payments, then you're the one that's going to have the anxiety, because now you're like, okay, on paper, my bank account shows I have this, 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 and this, but like for real, I really don't have it. But I'm struggling with going back to say said client, what's the story behind why I haven't gotten paid? And you have to do it in such a way where you're not basically trying to attack them. Your approach needs to be more solutions based, which is basically this: enjoy working with you. I love having you as a client. I just want to understand, is there anything that's gone wrong with the invoice or with the services, or anything that we've missed, and can we have a chance to do what's called course correction? Can we fix it so that we can actually get paid? Because sometimes it's an oversight, sometimes it's data was missing. Sometimes, there was 10 things you were supposed to include with the invoice. You only included 9, and you're like, oh man. Or it got sent to the wrong email, as I alluded to earlier, or the person that was your person for your account, they moved on and it got transferred to somebody else, and they don't know you. So of course, they don't know that you haven't been paid in 30 days. And they're like, well, you didn't reach out to me. So we didn't know. So, so I know some of y'all are probably sitting here listening to this going, wow, D, that's a lot. Well, it is. But here's the thing. It's one of those conversations that happens more than we realize, because you're like, well, this is the thing. It's hold on one second, please, y'all. It's sorry. It's this. One of the things I talk about a lot is having a tracking system. I believe that tracking systems teach you how to know the state of your flocks. So I'll give you an example. How you bought your cell phone? I'll do it this way. How many of y'all in the chat are team iPhone and team Android? Let me know. How you bought your cell phone is a tracking system which I can teach you to apply to your business. So if you have obviously you have a cell phone. So when you went into let's say your cell phone had an issue, like as I just had with mine. You walk into the said welcome to whatever phone store it is. What brings you in today? And you're like, oh, my cell phone has an issue and I need to get it fixed. Well, before they can actually diagnose what's going on with your phone, they're going to ask you for the following. Before we can actually do a diagnostic on your phone, can I have your driver's license, please? I need to confirm that you're a client or customer of said phone company. They're going to scan the back of your driver's license, and all your information comes up on the screen. You're like, oh yeah, your name is D. You're a member. You've had our phone for. I'm sorry. Your name is D. You've had this phone, Samsung, whatever, for a couple of years. You've been a client of ours for X amount of years, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we just want to confirm some things. So before they even start to get ready to diagnose you, they're going to do one thing. They're going to say, did you know you were eligible for an upgrade? You're like, I didn't come in here to buy a new phone. I just want you to diagnose what's wrong with my current phone. But they're going to start off with that suggestion for a sale. And as I tell this story, I'll show you how you bought your cell phone as a tracking system. So the first thing with your old phone or a new phone is there is a sale. Then if you end up deciding to get a new phone, you enter into a new contract. So there's a sale, there's a contract. Order entry is somebody will go in the back and they will go confirm that there are 10 phones. They're going to bring you out once, and now there's 9. So there's a sale, there's a contract, there's order entry, there's order fulfillment. They're going to fulfill, they're going to move all your data from your old phone to your new phone. So there's a sale, contract, order entry, order fulfillment. And then they're going to ask you, when would you like your bill? Your bill is basically accounts payable, because the phone company bills you every single month. Let me say it again. The cell phone company bills you every single month. So there's a sale, contract, order entry, order fulfillment, accounts payable. They bill you. Accounts receivable, aka collect the cash. The cell phone company collects your cash every single month. They don't miss a beat. They get paid every single month. So sale, contract, order entry, order fulfillment, accounts payable, accounts receivable. And then before everything is done, there'll be 2 questions they'll ask you. One, do you agree to sign this new contract for this new phone? And you say yes, and then you basically sign the new contract for the new phone. Then they're going to transfer all your old data from your old phone to your new phone. But then you're going to go do this. Before everything is wrapped up in a beautiful bow, you're going to go over to the register and ask you, how would you like to pay for your phone? Debit, credit, cash. And then you're going to wait for these magical words: transaction approved. Then once that happens, they put all of your lovely stuff in this lovely bag and they say, thank you for being a customer of said phone company. Now, how what I just described was a process for buying your phone, but that's a tracking system because at the beginning of the story, I said they asked you for your driver's license and they scanned your driver's license and the information came up and then they confirmed your name, your mailing address, your account number, how long you've been a customer, all the things, and they know all these details about you. In the same vein, for your business, you need to have a tracking system which looks like this. Number one, first column is the name of your customer. Who do you have a contract with? So that's column number one. Column number two, if you deal in the corporate space or in the government space, it would be, I would say, what's your contract number or PO number. So it would be name of the customer first column, contract number or PO number second column, and then so name, contract. What do they buy from you? What's the item that they bought from you? So that you're gonna outline that in your tracking system, and then you're gonna say, okay, name, PO number, contract, dollar amount of the contract. How much is it for? 10,000, 50,000, $100,000. You need to know that because you need to know how much money is how much the contract was awarded for. Number one. Number two, how much money is being deducted every time you bill. So you know, like the contract starts at 100,000, you bill on 10,000, and basically every month it's going down. So name, PO number, items, dollar amount, invoicing, deliverable. When are you supposed to deliver that product or service? You need to track that so you know when this invoice is due. Invoice date, when do you bill them? When do you bill them? And then when are you supposed to get paid? When do you collect your cash? And then a section called notes. And the reason this is really important because you need to have a wide view of the state of your account. So you know, okay, if you have 5 contracts and invoices are due in net 30, that tells you how much revenue you're going to have so you can plan accordingly. Earlier, I talked about you can't do anything in your business if you don't know how much cash you have on hand or how much money is supposed to come in. So the reason I talk about having a tracking system is that I need you to make sure that you're tracking your account so you know how many customers you have, how much expected revenue is coming, and then you'll know, okay, these invoices are due on this date, this date. Because like as I said in my earlier example, the cell phone company asks you what date would you like your bill because they're counting on that cash to come in every single day, and you need to do the same thing in your business. Let me know if that makes sense in the chat, please. Okay, so we've talked about a few things. We've talked about every unpaid invoice has a story. We've talked about unpaid invoice disrupt your growth. We've talked about um, the paradigm shift, which is really important. It's a mindset shift. We've definitely talked about that. We've talked about invoice anxiety, which is a real thing because I get it, especially if you're newer in business. The last thing that you feel like, man, I really don't want to have to do this, but it's a muscle, just like anything else in business. It won't grow unless you develop it, unless you use it. And if you don't understand that, you've got to see the sale all the way through. Basically, my tagline is collect the cash. The sale is not complete until the money is actually in the bank. So you've got to be able to understand that if you have unpaid invoices, the sale is not complete and the money is actually not in the bank. And you need to develop 2 really good skills: problem solving and critical thinking. You have to be able to untangle the story, the puzzle, the pieces, the missing pieces, and then figure out why are we here? How did we get here? And then more importantly, how do we fix this so that we don't end up here again? Now, I've just shared with you about the tracking system. And I use a cell phone. I use a cell phone because I want everybody to understand that's a relatable thing. And if you think about it, if how you bought your cell phone is a tracking system. And as I gave you the steps below that, that's how you can set up your tracking system for your business. Now, on this slide is basically to share with you that I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. I really have recovered over $100 million in excess funds. These are some of the government agencies that I've supported, and I've been fortunate and been blessed to have my story told in a few major media outlets, which helps to solidify that this is a real this is real. Um, People say all the time, like, you really collected that much money? Yes, in my career. It's been my career over years of doing this. My point is that I do this because, well, I'm actually I'll tell you why I do it by telling you my origin story. That's the point. That's the point of this, is to let you know that I've been doing this for a while. So everybody asked me, did you just wake up one day and go, oh my gosh, I want to collect the cash? No, I promise you, I did not. So what had happened was this: about 20 years ago, I used to work for a small IT company outside of Boston, where I'm originally from. If you've ever worked in corporate or in the government, you know how it is. It's like, welcome aboard. Here's your cubicle. Here's your box. Jokingly, here's your plant, and here's whatever you're going to do. In my case, it was, hey D, welcome aboard. Here's your cubicle. Here's your box. Here's your plant, and here's a list. Here's a list of accounts of unpaid invoices to the tune of $8 million. Yep, $8 million. Now, when I got hired, I was a part-time collector. I worked Monday through Friday, 4 to 8. There were senior people on the team, and I'm like, so y'all have senior collectors that do this, that have much more experience than I had at that time, and y'all could not figure out how to collect $8 million. No, your resume says, based on your government experience, that you know how to collect this money, so we hired you to help us do this. So I'm like, okay. So I'm a person of faith, so I had a short conversation with God, and then I asked for basically some wisdom, and I got my download, and I'm like, okay, problem solving. I got to figure out, that's basically where every unpaid invoice has a story. I had to start with the problems. What are the problems behind why they haven't paid? So one of my first phone calls was this. I'm going down my list of accounts, and it starts off like this. Hi, I call, get the information. I call one of the customers, and I'm like, hi, my name is D. I'm with said company. May I speak to the person in accounts payable, please? And they're like, D, we are so glad you called. I'm thinking, okay, great. What's up? So they're like, you're calling about all these accounts. And I said, yes. And they said, oh, so we owe you $2 million. Yes. Well, the reason we haven't paid you is that we did a change to our billing system, and we notified all of the vendors. And we were wondering why your company kept submitting the invoices incorrectly into the system or into the portal. And I'm like, I have no idea. I was like, this is the first I'm hearing of this. And they said, oh yeah, we notified all the vendors at least 3 months ago. And I said, well, I'm number one, I just got here, but number two, I don't know where that email ended up in our system, but I'm going to do this on behalf of our company. I'm going to apologize, because clearly we didn't know. But here's the thing: is it possible for you to do me a favor, please? And can you resend me this email stating that you changed your billing system from what the old system to the new system? And also, can you CC my former boss, who was a comptroller at the time? She's like, sure, absolutely. I said, oh, and then she also said this: if you can work with whoever you work with in your finance team, y'all can reformat these invoices and resubmit them into the new system. We will pay you this week $2 million. Now, here's the point I want you guys to take away. It was problem solving that helped me figure out, what was wrong. Getting on the phone, asking the question, finding out where were the disconnects so that we can actually get paid. So once I did that, I got the email. I went to talk to my former boss, who was a comptroller, and I say, hey, how you doing? Good, how are you? Well, listen, I said, if we reformat these invoices into their new system per this email, I can collect $2 million. And she was like, oh, we're absolutely gonna do that. And so literally myself and the IT person, we became the best of buddies for a week. All I did for one solid week was sit with him, and we had to figure out, the old system, which is our system that we were using prior, and then transfer new system, and then reformat voices in the new format, new system, all the things. Well, anyway, what happened was basically that happened. So in 60 days, I collect $6 million. So we went from me being hired, me having a desk, me getting a list of accounts worth $8 million. I collect $6 million in 60 days. And what I didn't say was I was a part-time collector. I only worked Monday through Friday, 4 to 8. Now, part of my origin story, or why I do what I do today, is this: after I collect my $6 million, me and my team literally go downstairs, and we're thinking, we're about to get bonus checks. Because I'm thinking, okay, I've done my $6 million, they've done theirs. We're expecting, hey, it's D and team, welcome, come downstairs. We're looking forward to seeing y'all. Hey, what's going on? Congratulations on your success with collecting that much money. My gosh, you guys crushed it. Yep, and we're expecting these beautiful white envelopes with some bonus checks in it, and we're like, okay. And they're saying, the CEO says, listen, come downstairs, we need to have a chat. And me and my buddies look at each other like, something's up. Well, we didn't know what was going to be up until this. So basically, The CEO of the company says, listen, thank you all so very much across all of the departments. We've made an executive decision. We're closing the company today and we're letting 100 people go. This happened to us 2 months before the holiday season. I don't know if you've ever had anything in your career or in your life that has jarred you and you're like, did this really just happen? I went to work. I went and did my job. I collected $6 million in 60 days. I lost my job. The company went out of business and 100 people lost their jobs. Once I got back up from that experience, I started processing and thinking about, I wonder how many other small business owners could end up like this if they don't have what I talked about earlier, which is a tracking system, so they know the state of their accounts, how much money is owed, is it net 30, net 60, net 90. Once that happened, I was like, okay, we need to start talking about this. So I know y'all remember COVID, right? It's like people are like, why are you bringing that up? Because during COVID, there were a lot of small businesses that were impacted, and what touched me and made me start talking about this was that the fact that there were so many of them that were impacted with cash flow or lack of cash flow, and I thought nobody's talking about how are they supposed to survive if they've got contracts? Are they collecting their money, or are they just not dealing with that issue because they're like, oh, I don't really want to bother them. You're not bothering them. The customer is expecting you to follow up on your payments, especially if you're owed it. And so I decided to start talking about this. And so thanks to my book coach, we actually had a conversation. She says, D, your why is that you want small business owners to win. So she challenged me to tell this story and then to actually teach my system through a book called Collect the Cash. And so that's what I've done. So tonight you're getting to hear, a little bit of my origin story, a little bit of the playbook, and a little bit about how every unpaid invoice has a story, because it's the part of business that is necessary, but it's a part of the business that a lot of people don't want to talk about because it's uncomfortable. It's definitely uncomfortable. I see there's a question that says, any suggestions for handling when a client ghosts you, literally blocks you on LinkedIn after fulfillment? I've emailed invoices. Shall I mail it to her home? Or do I write off $250 as a learning experience and start getting paid up front? Well, Cheryl, I think you just answered your own question. Yes, I think you would definitely make sure you get paid up front. We'd have to have a conversation further about that because I have to kind of get the backstory of like what happened and why. But based on just what I see right here, I would say write it off as a learning experience, and then I would make the quick adjustment that at any time going forward, I would definitely make sure I got paid up front. So you just heard my origin story. Now let me talk to you about problem solving, because this is one of the important keys to Cheryl's question about what should I do. As I said, every unpaid invoice has a story. I answered that kind of quickly just based on what I saw on the screen. I don't know the whole story behind why that person ghosted her or what happened. So in order to give probably a better answer, I would have to have a conversation. But based on what I saw, that for the amount of money that is impacting you, be lesson learned. Make sure you get paid up front. That's the quick answer. But that's a lesson that's an example for another time, because there's probably more to the story. So basically, let me talk about this. So problem solving is this. It's a step that most businesses skip. I've already shared several times that every unpaid invoice has a story that needs to be resolved. I've talked to you guys about invoices being prepared and submitted correctly, how important it is. I've also talked to you a lot about why it's so important to have a great follow-up system. Whether you do email or text, calls, you have to have a system in place. That's why I shared about having the tracking system, because right there on your tracking system, you have the last column is called notes. You can track, based on the number of emails you sent, the date you called, some of the conversation, that happened with your client, to find out what's going on. You can track that, so all right, they've said this, they mentioned that they're going to make a payment on this date. You want to notate that so when you're going to get paid, so that you can plan for your cash flow. And then the last thing is there any issue that hasn't been resolved? Part of what you want to do in your problem solving, or your problem solving process, is figuring out, is there anything that's come up that hasn't been addressed? If we address it, can it be fixed? Kind of similar to when I talked about when I called that client and they said, yeah, we can pay you $2 million if you will resubmit these invoices in the new system. Well, if I had not made that phone call and asked, what was going on, what was holding up the payment, we would have never gotten that $2 million. So, problem solving. It's one of the four keys to collect the cash, but you need to absolutely be really good at problem solving, critical thinking, and absolutely have a tracking system. And listen, if you dread if you dread the thought of recovering your revenue, I need you to shift your mindset to not dreading it, but to being more comfortable with going back to your client and asking them for their payments, excuse me, for you. Because I don't want you to dread it. I want you to go from what had happened was to how do you win, and when you get paid, aka the cash. The sale is not complete until the money is actually in the bank. You have to see the all the way through, from when you land the contract, when you land the sale, when you do the deliverable, when you submit your invoice, and make sure you get paid. Because I want you to make sure you have revenue so you can do all the things you need to do in your business and in your life. So, what's next? For those of you that have showed up tonight, I want to first of all say thank you. I have a gift called 5 Tips to Collect the Cash. There's if you actually on the next slide, you'll see a QR code where you can download it, and then that way that's my gift to you for coming in and listening to this conversation about, every unpaid invoice has a story. This is my gift to say thank you for your time and your attention. Number two, it gives you five additional tips, which I did. Unfortunately, I forgot to outline them here. But basically, if you download the gift, you will see the 5 things that will teach you how to do this more effectively. And if after you get that, you still have questions, if you're here on LinkedIn, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or DM me, and we can schedule a call and we can talk more about what's going on and then address the issue from there. But I just want to first of all tell you thank you so very much for coming to support me on my live tonight. It was fun to just talk to you about unpaid invoices, the challenges that you face, why it's so important to have a tracking system, why you have to change your mindset from, as confident as you were to ask for the sale, you have to be just as confident to ask for the money. They go together, and as it's a muscle that you have to constantly, just like me, you've seen me do my tonight. I've definitely made a couple of mistakes, and that's fine. But the point is that as I do these more, I'll get better. But the point is that I kept going. It's the same thing in your business. Even though things happen, you don't expect to get ghosted, you don't expect to lose money. It's an opportunity to learn the lesson, do a course correction, and then set up systems in place so that you won't end up here again. So thank you for being here. If there are more questions or more concerns, like I said, you can connect with me here on LinkedIn, send a connection note, or DM me, and we'll go from there. But again, thanks for your time. Appreciate y'all. Cheers.
Let's go.